Hello and welcome to Technology Update. This month we left the hustle and bustle of Moscow and went to Tatarstan, which is one of the country's innovation hotspots. On today's show, we meet some of Kazan's young scientists. We find out that making plane parts is a bit like baking a cake. And we come face to face with a modern-day Viking. But first, Kazan has been pegged to become Russia's IT capital, so it was the perfect place to kick off our trip. Kazan is the capital of the Republic of Tatarstan. The city's historic sites spanning back centuries belie a very modern metropolis, and its innovation-friendly environment makes it the ideal base for startups. On our first evening in the city, we were met by a pair of young entrepreneurs keen to give us a demonstration of their Rodar mobile app. As well as providing all the features of a traditional dashcam, the app also uses computer vision technology to identify road signs and display them on screen. It also remembers the speed limits of the road you're on and politely reminds you if you get a bit heavy on the accelerator. The following day we went to IT Park, right in the heart of Kazan's business district. Built in 2009 with the sole purpose of boosting Russia's IT industry, the park's business incubator is a hive of activity. It provides all the infrastructure and support necessary to help budding businessmen and women turn their idea into a fully fledged company. So it was the perfect venue for the Russian Startup Roadshow stop in Kazan. The event, organised in part by Skolkovo, will pass through 27 cities by April this year, giving a total of around 3,000 startups the chance to pitch their ideas to about 500 investors. And we arrived just in time to see the guys from Rodar take to the stage. App stores are already pretty crowded with map and augmented reality software, offering functions ranging from turn-by-turn navigation, voice and text chat, to AR overlays and geo-targeted advertising. The only problem is, none of them offer all of these features at once, and this is where Rodar is going to dominate them all. Not only will the app combine all these functions, but future updates will introduce AR navigation, audio advertising, and instantly updated maps for the first time.
Currently, our competitors are updating their maps manually. Therefore, delays are inevitable. They can take from a couple of months to half a year. We expect our maps to be updated every day or two at the initial stage, while our user base is relatively small. But once we have the same number of users as our competitors, we'll start updating the maps within 1 or 2 hours of the change, offering the drivers latest information.
The Rodar developers are conveniently based at IT Park. In their office upstairs, they managed to write the complex recognition algorithms capable of running on smartphones in just 3.5 months. But it's not just a labour of love. The app will be available for free in around a month, but the developers plan to commercialise the data they collect, as well as work with insurance companies to lower driver premiums. With such potential, it's no surprise they were voted one of the 3 winners at the end of the day. Back downstairs, the event was still in full swing, with startups taking it in turns to try and impress the jury. It was pretty tense, so we took a breather and caught up with a VIP with a very personal interest in the event.
I'm also an angel investor by myself, and I have told to everybody to be more credible with the story that I invested last year to 7 startups in Russia, and all of those are from the regions. So do I believe on the regions then? I guess so, if I put my own dollars on it.
Real Speaker has already received no small amount of investment. It allows writers, bloggers, or the downright bone idle to enter text into a computer by simply dictating it. The application currently supports 13 languages, ranging from English and Spanish to Czech and Chinese. So I wondered how it would fare with my northern twang. We are at the Russian startup event in Kazan. Full stop. I am testing the Real Speaker software. Full stop. It writes down every word you say, full stop. So hopefully it will make it easier for me to write scripts for Technology Update, full stop. Real Speaker uses a microphone, webcam and internet connection. It matches the audio input from the microphone with the speaker's lip movements from the webcam. All this information is sent over the internet to the Kazan-based server. It's then processed in real time and sent back to the user as text.
The project is relatively well known in Russia. The total funds we've raised are around $400,000 US. We have investments both from the foundations and private investors. The company is a resident of the Kazan IT Park and Skolkovo Innovation Center. The company is also registered in the United States, and we've already applied for a US patent, and right now are looking for a strategic investor to help us turn a promising technology into a commercially successful product.
The unique dual-channel system boosts the accuracy of speech recognition. As well as helping avid writers, the technology may be used to control domestic appliances in the home of the future. Kazan is already one of the country's innovation leaders, but if it's going to stay there, it's going to need a constant supply of young talent. So on the next stop of our trip, we went to one of Kazan's many universities to meet some of the city's future innovators.
What's up in the lab?
The Kazan National Research Technological University can trace its roots back to 1890. Since then, it's risen to become one of the top 10 technical universities in the country. With over 26,000 students studying here, it's also the largest technical university in Russia, and one of its strengths is biochemistry. Inspired by a sweet wrapper made from carrot extracts, master's student Ivan Zakharov has developed a unique starch-based formula for making biodegradable carrier bags and containers. The end product is 30% stronger than polythene, but only sacrifices 5% of the elasticity. And the material's anti-static properties mean that it won't attract dust during the manufacturing process. As well as solving the scourge of plastic bags worldwide, the technology might also pave the way for edible wrappers and containers. The formula can also be adjusted to prolong or shorten the decomposition time from a matter of seconds to a couple of months. While strolling down the corridor, we came across another eco-friendly technology. Phosphates, nitrates and other unsavory substances are commonly found in detergents and fertilizers. They destroy the natural balance of aquatic ecosystems once they make their way into water. So finding a way of removing them effectively and cheaply is of utmost importance. Here in the Industrial Technology Department, they're testing a new product to remove phosphates and other pollutants from wastewater. The product is called NanoFloc, and it's produced by an Austrian company based on Russian technology. Like other products on the market, it causes impurities to precipitate and sink to the bottom for removal. However, unlike the rest, NanoFloc works in record time and can be used in conjunction with the microorganisms known as active sludge. The technology has huge potential for such a small bottle.
The higher the settling rate, the sooner the active sludge separates from the treated wastewater, which naturally speeds up the entire wastewater treatment process, increasing the production rate of the wastewater treatment facilities, which is one of the advantages of this product.
BioCAD is based on NanoFloc, but customized for the Russian market. Its improved sedimentation rate of biosolids reduces the energy required during biopurification by 20%, but it still has to pass through many other stages before being returned to the environment. Wastewater first flows through a metal grate to remove any debris. It's then filtered to remove sand and solidified fats. The chemical agent is added to the water in the first storage tank. It's then treated with microorganisms, creating active sludge, which also needs to be removed. BioCAD can be added directly to the active sludge, reducing the number of treatment stages.
The well-known professor and member of the Academy of Natural Sciences, Professor Grubin, conducted the research. It was he who invented iron nanomagnetite. In 2007, Professor Sidorin designed a technology for producing it on an industrial scale. And then, in 2009-2010, Mr. Kubinger, who's the head of our company in Austria, came up with a way to work nanomagnetite into polymer elements.
The ferromagnetic nanoparticles in BioCAD are attracted to the surface of the phosphates in the water, causing them to stick together and sink in a process known as flocculation. The unique ratio of ingredients and nanotechnology means that BioCAD works 2 to 3 times faster than anything else on the market.
Of course, we intend to set up a production facility in Russia. This will be much more efficient because currently we have to take the magnetite outside Russia, incorporate it into polymers abroad, and then bring it back here, which is naturally quite costly.
As the world's population grows, so does demand for fresh water. And flocculation plays an important part in meeting that demand. But next time you have a glass of water, it might be best not to think about where it came from. Weight is everything when building aircraft, and composite materials offer unbeatable strength-to-weight ratios. But using them requires a completely new manufacturing process, and the similarities with baking are uncanny.
Hortec.
With tight restrictions on emissions and more people flying than ever before, aircraft manufacturers are being forced to lose some weight. Never one to get left behind, Russia's Irkut MS-21 will be the fourth plane in the world with almost entirely carbon fiber or black wings when it takes to the air in 2015. Capo Composite in Kazan was only opened 6 months ago, and, as you may have guessed from the name, it manufactures composite components for the aviation industry. It already produces composite wing parts for the Sukhoi Superjet and is getting ready to launch production of parts for the MS-21. Passenger plane wings are complex pieces of kit. Their main parts include leading-edge flaps, air brakes, spoilers, ailerons and trailing-edge flaps. Originally made from aluminium, the number of components made from composites vary from model to model, but is always on the up. If we're talking about the MS-21, all these parts will be made from composite materials, but in addition, the wing skins, spar and wing box will also be made out of composites to create a black wing.
Well, if we're talking about the situation today, the proportion of composite materials is something in the order of 12% for our planes. That's for planes like the Superjet. But for the MS-21, which will have a composite wing, the ratio will be a lot higher, of course.
Each composite wing plane component starts off life on a roll of resin-impregnated cloth, or prepreg. Like many ingredients, the prepreg must be stored in a cool, dry place to prevent it from going off. When the time comes, each layer of the component is cut out by the automated plotter's razor-sharp knife, a bit like cutting shapes out of dough. Some parts contain up to 30 layers of prepreg, so they're each stamped with a unique ID to make sure they don't get mixed up. The protective film is removed to reveal the black carbon fiber below. Once every 2 or 3 layers have been put down, they're put in a vacuum bag to remove any stray pockets of air. And as with any kitchen, hygiene is king.
Any small bit of fluff, which may seem insignificant in our daily lives, becomes very significant in our line of work. Because if, for example, a small strand of hair accidentally fell into one of the parts, that could change its characteristics.
The sealed wing parts are then ready to go into the oven to cure. The giant autoclave heats the components to 180 degrees C. The temperature rises a couple of degrees a minute to ensure that no cracks appear in the final product. Just like a conventional oven, the autoclave is fan-assisted to distribute the heat evenly. However, unlike the domestic appliance, vacuum pipes are attached to each component to squeeze out any excess resin, which is soaked up by the felt layer on top. The pressure inside the autoclave reaches 3 to 8 kilograms per cubic centimeter, forcing out any remaining air between the layers. The whole process is carefully controlled and monitored, and after 8 to 16 hours, the wing parts are done to perfection. Unfortunately, we couldn't wait that long, so here's one we made earlier.
Today we use imported materials to produce parts. But at some time in the future, we'll have to switch to Russian materials. VIAM is doing a very important job, in my opinion, as far as I can tell. They're doing it very well, judging by the results of our work together.
The raw materials and samples of the final product are tested at Aero Composite's head office in Moscow. These samples were prepared according to the exact same recipe and thickness as the ones used in the Superjet 100 wings. They're first impact tested under much higher load than they'll experience under normal operating conditions. The sample is then scanned with ultrasound to assess the extent to which the internal structure fractured. The carbon fiber is then tested to destruction to see the maximum load the wing can take in the highly unlikely event that any cracks appear during flight. After all, the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
We all hope that one day we're going to use Russian materials, because I think our future depends on this. We like working with Viam materials because we get to work not just with some test equipment, but we work with real equipment used to produce real parts.
The finished product is then assembled in these custom frames which have been tailored to each part, leaving no space for human error. And this is where our culinary analogy comes to an end. Composite in Kazan is already producing parts for Austria's FAS AG and has its eyes firmly set on the wider international market. Thanks to its black wings, the MS-21 promises to become the most aerodynamic plane in the world when it hits the skies. That's just the end of the first half. We'll continue with our tour of Tatarstan after the break.
Does the media lead us or we lead the media? Privacy versus security. All right, your party, where's it going? The questions that no one is asking with the guests that you deserve answers from. It's all on Politicking, only on RT.
The interview for tomorrow is confirmed. 10 a.m.
At the World Trade, it is hoped that they will find a global solution to a global problem.
The businesses call for a total revamp of the system.
Chaos on the streets of Kiev. After a short truce, rioters are again wreaking havoc. The so-called opposition appears to have no interest in the legally elected government. Force is being met with force. Where Ukraine goes from here is anyone's guess. On the money, where the business of Russia is business.
Welcome back to our Tatarstan special. The Alabuga Economic Zone is located right in the heart of Western Russia. It was only set up 8 years ago, but it's already become the biggest and most successful in the country. Its wide range of incentives and ideal location mean that many of the world's industrial heavyweights have come to town and set up shop.
Focal point.
Stretching into the distance as far as the eye can see, the scale of Alabuga is hard to grasp. Its container terminal handles around 40,000 containers a year. The whole site covers a massive 20 square kilometres, and there are plans to double this by 2016. 37 companies have staked their claims worth a total of $3 billion on the site, and 9 are already up and running. The automobile industry is one of Alabuga's key directions, and we made a house call on one of the residents. NTT MSP designs and produces exhaust systems for Russian and CIS car manufacturers. The company only became a resident of the Special Economic Zone fairly recently, investing $163 million in this facility. One of the company's main products is this sizable exhaust system for diesel and petrol KAMAZ lorry engines. And the company has come a long way from its modest beginnings almost 20 years ago. It started off in '95 when two engineers developed an improved exhaust for the ZIL 5301. It was officially founded 3 years later, becoming the official supplier for the car producer. It opened its first factory in 2002. In 2005, it became the main supplier for GAZ and set up a dedicated production facility for KAMAZ in 2010. The company became a resident of Alabuga in 2012.
We designed this system together with the engine manufacturer. The engine and the exhaust gas system are one unit. If this unit works well, we'll be able to meet Euro 4 and Euro 5 standards.
The factory currently occupies an area of 5,000 meters squared. All the machinery at NTC MSP's facility has been custom designed and made to meet their specific requirements. Once the catalytic converter has been installed, the external casing is welded and crimped to make it airtight. The company makes extensive use of robots to ensure consistently high quality. It also means they can produce a car exhaust in as little as 4 minutes. Noise is a key factor that needs to be taken into consideration when meeting Euro 4 or 5 standards, and the exhaust systems are tuned at NTC MSP's head office in Moscow. Computer simulations show the path of the airflow inside the exhaust and the frequencies of the sound produced. Engineers then use this information to adjust the size and the shape of the device accordingly. And one of the main challenges is to optimize the speed and pressure of the air hitting the catalytic block.
The main trick in designing the sound of a car exhaust is to fine-tune the output so that the high frequencies are muffled as much as possible within the output spectrum. That will give you a relatively simple and efficient setup.
NTC MSP can produce around 300,000 exhausts and 140,000 catalytic converters a year. There are grand plans for expanding the company's site in Alabuga threefold and opening a high-tech R&D centre. But in the meantime, one lucky driver will have this exhaust stamped with the Technology Update seal of approval. Naberezhnya Chelny is located just 40 kilometers down the road from Alabuga. The city is based around KAMAZ, which is best known for its record number of wins in the Dakar Rally. With the truck manufacturer producing well over 50,000 HGVs a year, it's easy to overlook some of the smaller factories which are also specialists in their own right.
Brains over brawn.
Based in the KAMAZ plant, Aton Impulse is testament to Naberezhnya Chelny's reputation as an automotive powerhouse. Named after the explorers of old, there's nowhere the company's Viking all-terrain vehicle can't go. On road, the vehicle's 146 horses propel the 2-ton monster at a respectable 90 kilometers an hour. But what it lacks in speed on road, it more than makes up for off-road. The Viking's jumbo wheels provide performance on a par with tracks, but without churning up the terrain below. The vehicle has been over 10 years in the making, during which time the developers managed to plan for every possible eventuality.
Although we live in a northern country, we had no idea that there are 37 different types of snow. And now we do. There are 4 or 5 types of snow that are impossible for any vehicle to drive across, including snowmobiles, and even reindeer get stuck. That is why we used ultra-low pressure tires on our vehicle, to enable it to traverse this kind of snow. We can also increase the vehicle's ground clearance from 30 to 55 centimeters. By raising the suspension, you can roll back a bit and then move forward, pushing your way through the snow and onto your destination.
The pressure of Viking's tyres can also be lowered and raised from within the cab. The lower the pressure, the larger the footprint, the more grip the vehicle has. The Viking's extremely low centre of gravity also makes it difficult to roll over on even the steepest of slopes.
Now, as much as I like getting thrown around in the back, there's no way I'm going to let our driver Nias here have all the fun.
Nias, can I have a go? Of course. Thanks. Apart from the central driving position and height, driving the Viking was like any other vehicle. Soon I felt confident enough to open her up a bit and see what she could do. As we glided effortlessly across the snow, it was easy to forget we were on a frozen river.
We're looking into making the vehicle transportable by helicopter with an external sling, so that it can be inserted or evacuated by air. So instead of driving the vehicle some 5,000 kilometers or so to its operational location, you can just bring it over with a helicopter and get to work.
12 Vikings have been assembled by hand so far. They're currently being used in St. Petersburg, the far north, and by the emergency services. The company plans to make 25 vehicles this year to perfect the manufacturing process and shift to mass production by 2015, making between 100 and 150 ATVs a year. And just like its ancestors, the Viking is no landlubber, it's also a fully amphibious vehicle.
Rescue services asked us to develop a vehicle that could pass through water that's full of debris, the kind that you have to deal with if you have to move around in an area devastated by a flood. So, we contacted some people in the shipbuilding industry and had a 4-bladed propeller with a 120% overlap designed especially for us. It is essentially a screw.
Aton Impulse is still testing and improving the Viking's design. It's also working on a 6-wheel version and custom models for the various emergency services. The founders of the company cut their teeth working for Kamaz and even include a national buggy champion. The Viking's custom composite propeller spins at 4,000 RPM, giving it a maximum speed of 15 kilometers an hour on water. The Viking's centrally mounted engine and buoyant construction make it as seaworthy as any longship. It's also the only off-road amphibious vehicle in the world that's completely road legal. Not bad for a small factory from Naberezhny Chelny. As our time in Tatarstan was coming to an end, we were keen to get something to remember our trip by. So just before heading back to Moscow, we took some time out to snap some of the sights. Update. We headed back to IT Park in Kazan to get a hand from some of the residents. Fun From Me specialises in making video gifts for friends, family and businesses for any occasion, whether it be a wedding, birthday or tech-up trip. Users simply send in their photos, choose from one of the many templates, and the Fun From Me guys do the rest, with a little help from Adobe After Effects. They hope to automate the service in the near future, but it already leads to some pretty weird and wonderful clips. Naturally, I chose the Real Man template, but asked the guys to put a tech-up spin on it, and I think you'll agree, it turned out quite well. But I'll leave you to watch it in peace, and until next time, enjoy the ride.